Well, it looked like I was going to be medevaced or life flighted to OHSU. But when this tube formed over me, there were these 4 souls inside. They were about the size of your fist, a little pointy on one end, maybe. There was a semblance of a face, but not a true face. They all spoke at once. They spoke to me telepathically. They all spoke at once. I could understand everything they were saying. I could understand everything everybody was saying on the outside of the tube. I could understand my wife, Polly. I could understand the doctor. I could understand them talking amongst themselves. The 4 souls said to me, oh boy, here we go. They said, you can't go. You have to stay. You are protected and you are loved. And when they said the word love, this ring emanated from, is like a shockwave. If you've watched an atomic bomb blow up on a desert and that first quick, poof, that first quick wave you see, that's what it looked like. And it was in slow motion and it was coming towards me and coming towards me. And when it hit my body, my face and my torso, when it hit it, that was the most unbelievable love I ever felt in my life. It beat the void. It beat the dirt. I'd never felt anything like that. You can actually see love coming.
Good evening and welcome to the channel Earth to the Other Side. My name is John Glasspool. I am your host. And tonight I'm speaking with Mr. Phil Bertholl, who had a near-death experience back in 2009 after finding himself face down on a concrete floor in his shop from an internal bleed due to a vein that exploded near his liver. And after which he had quite the experience, which we are just about to talk about. Phil, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. So tell us what happened. Tell us about your near-death experience.
Well, the near-death experience happened. I used to work quite late in my shop and finally got to the point to where my wife was getting very upset. And she finally put her foot down and said, okay, no more late nights at the shop, be home by midnight. So one night I was sitting down in the shop and I was cleaning up my shop rags. I was washing them in one bucket, and rinsing them in another bucket. Been doing this for probably maybe 40 minutes or something like that. I had a whole pile and I was running out of rags. After about 40 minutes, I get all these rags cleaned up. I stood up to stretch my back. And when I did that, all of a sudden I started getting these light tracers in my eyes, these light flashes and these zipping lines going across. And I felt like I was going to faint. Made my way over to my office. I glanced off at the door jamb. I was losing more sight. I bumped into a filing cabinet. They had a bunch of paperwork that was on top of it. I headed face first right onto the concrete floor, and I never felt a thing. I think before I was hit, I was yanked out of my body. I flew through 2 walls, and I ended up in a black void. Completely dark, pitch black. It was warm. It felt like vermiculite potting soil. It had like the little mica things in it. It had no gravity in it. I couldn't tell which position I was positioned in, whether I was upside down or right side up or what. At one point, I reached for my right arm with my left arm, and I never found it. So this is when I pretty much surmised that I was dead. Laying in the dirt was something, because as soon as I got into the dirt, it was warm for one. It felt really cozy, and the other thing, it was full of love. You could feel the love in the dirt. You knew the dirt wasn't from anywhere else. The dirt was from heaven. You just knew that. It was like an all-knowing love. Not the kind of love like you love your wife or you love your dog or something. This was like a different kind of love, an all-knowing love. I was just surprised by all of this. So I was in there for quite a while. And about this time, I'm thinking that, well, maybe, I know someone's going to come and get me, so I'm just laying here. All of a sudden, poof, I'm back into my shop, come in through the wall. And this time I'm up by the ceiling. I can I can look down, I can see the buckets, I can see the rag, I can see everything in my shop. My table saw, I'm floating towards the office door, and I could see the filing cabinet was tilted over. All the paperwork that was on top of it was on the floor. Everything was really vivid. I could see all the colors on the invoices. When the stores give you an invoice, sometimes you get the white copy or the type, and then you get some people give you the yellow copy or the pink copy. I could see all the colors. I could see the names of the people from the companies of the invoices. Don't remember, but I know I had my stereo on, and I don't remember if I had hearing or not. As I looked at all the mess that I made, as I was looking down, I could see myself on the floor, face down. My glasses were broken, a big pile of dried blood coming out of the side of my mouth. There was a tooth laying there too. And when I looked at myself, I was starting to be drawn, not pushed or pulled, but drawn like magnetics. I was being pulled into the back of my head. And when the spark that I was ended up into the back of my head, these two huge hands, big wide hands, slid underneath my torso, and they picked me up and raised me to my knees. Or actually, they slid underneath me, and I heard this voice that said, "Come off of the floor." And the hands raised me to my knees. So I reached out my right arm and I set my elbow on the desk so I could steady myself. And I turned to my left to see who'd picked me up, and there was no one there. And I also realized that I crapped my pants, because I guess when you go, you go.
Yeah.
So I looked at my watch to see how long I'd been out, and when I was washing my rags and I stood up, to stretch my back, it was 11:43. And when I got raised to my knees in my office, I looked at my watch to see how long I'd been out, and it was 2:07. I've been out of body for 2 hours and 18 minutes. So I get cleaned up, and I put on a pair of shop coveralls that I had. Started heading up to the house, grabbed a stick so I could use it as a walking stick and get cleaned up, took a shower, and put on some clean sweats. I went and laid down on my bed, and I think I got a couple hours worth of sleep. All of a sudden I woke up, and I had my mouth was flooding with water, like right before you get ready to, hurl chunks. Got off my bed, headed down the hallway towards the bathroom, and the light tracers came back. They were zipping all over in my eyes. I was getting little flashes and poofs and stuff, and I went over to my recliner and I sat down. And I yelled at my wife and I said, "Polly, get up, bring me a pot. I'm gonna get sick. Well, she comes running in, not knowing what the hell's going on. She had no clue of anything that was going on down the shop, and she can't figure out why I can't stand up. And I said, I can't stand up. I can't see. And she said, "What? How is this going on?" So bring me a pot. So she brings me a pot. I get sick, and it's all blood. Well, there's the panic time. Into the car. We head on up to Newport, 12 miles away. We just jumped in the car because we figured it would be faster to have it than call the ambulance and have them take less time when we could just jump in the car and go. So we headed up to Newport. Once we get up to there, they did a CAT scan on me, and they found the vein. And then they realized that there was no one in the hospital there that could do the job. So they loaded me up with a 6-pack of blood and a pack of Sera and a 6-pack and a pack of platelets, threw me in an ambulance, and then shipped me off to a hospital that was 46 miles away. And when we got over to that hospital, the doctor, the radiologist that was there, was young. He was a new radiologist. But anyway, I was a hell of a case. My liver had cirrhosis, bad. And all my veins were varicose. He tried 3 different times to repair the stent. And when you go to repair the stent, they put a tube down your jugular vein, and it runs all the way down to the organ. And they're watching on a radio screen. You're laying on an on an X-ray table, and they put trace dye in you, and they're just watching this thing go down, and they're taking pictures all the way and all this stuff. And he couldn't. He tried 3 different times to get it to stick, and he couldn't do it. The head doctor comes out and tells Polly that my wife that about the best thing they can do for me is keep me comfortable. Just keep me comfortable. Well, she asked how long I'd been drinking, and Polly said, "Well, he hasn't had a drink in hadn't had a drink in 8 years. And she goes, oh, he says, well, how, he says, what about smoking? She says, well, he only smokes like 2 cigarettes a day, if that. And she goes, oh my goodness. So she goes on into her office. And she goes, oh my, and runs on into her office. And when she runs into her office, all of a sudden I'm encapsulated in this blue tube. It was thick. It was like about 1.5 inches thick. It was mottled. It wasn't smooth on the outside. You could see through it. It was definitely blue. I could make out everything that was going on. I had hearing. I could hear everything. I could hear my wife. The doctor had called the head gastroenterologist at OHSU in Portland. And he said, put him in the tube, take a picture of his liver, and see if he has any tumors on it. If he doesn't, put him on my roof. Well, it looked like I was going to be medevaced or life-flighted to OHSU. But when this tube formed over me, there were these 4 souls inside. They were about the size of your fist, a little pointy on one end, maybe. There was a semblance of a face, but not a true face. They all spoke at once. They spoke to me telepathically. They all spoke at once. I could understand everything they were saying. I could understand everything everybody was saying on the outside of the tube. I could understand my wife, Polly. I could understand the doctor. I could understand them talking amongst themselves. The 4 souls said to me, oh boy, here we go. They said, you can't go. You have to stay. You are protected and you are loved. And when they said the word love, this ring emanated from, is like a shockwave. If you've watched an atomic bomb blow up on a desert and that first quick, poof, that first quick wave you see, that's what it looked like. And it was in slow motion and it was coming towards me and coming towards me. And when it hit my body, my face and my torso, when it hit it, that was the most unbelievable love I ever felt in my life. It beat the void. It beat the dirt. I'd never felt anything like that. You can actually see love coming. I could see. So it's an actual thing. That was just so amazing to me. I think now I have to tell you about my aunt. My aunt was a clairvoyant, psychic all her life. I knew about her skills when I was about 4 or 6 years old. She was in the car one time and she was stomping her feet on the floor and holding her hands over her ears and yelling, stop, stop, shut up, shut up, shut up. And Mom knew what was going on. I was sitting behind Mom in the seat, in the back seat of the car and looking at Yvonne in the passenger seat and wondering what was going on. And that was about the first time I realized that she was talking about having different people talk to her, souls talk to her all the time. Being clairvoyant, they would try and talk to her all the time, try and get. She was an opening. She was an opening to the outside world for these souls, and they were always trying to find somebody to get word out to their families and this and that. And she always had like 10 people talking to her all the time. I wasn't really aware of that. About 1.5 years before my event, Yvonne came to Oregon to visit Mom and me. And when she came, she knew that Mom had cancer. But with Yvonne, everything she knew about family, she didn't share with the family. She kept it to herself. She never spoke with family about what she saw with family. She didn't want to alter things or change things. She knew that I would cure Mom. I smoke pot. I'm a pothead. And Yvonne knew it, and she knew I would cure Mom. So a year and a half later, when Yvonne was down in Vegas, she died, and she was diabetic. She died of some complications. But before she had died, she was when she lived over in Hawaii. She worked for Hawaii 5-0. They would use her as a psychic. She would have souls come to her and explain to where they were hidden, bodies, and things like that. And she would go tell the police, or tell the 5-0 where, describe these places, and they would go and recover these victims and souls that have been lost, or unrecovered. And she did this quite a bit. There was a tour boat that cruised from island to island, and they gave her a room that would hold like 60 people, and she would fill it every time. And people would come in there and sit down, and she would just open her mind and just start saying, okay, who's so-and-so and so-and-so, and she would just sit there and start, she would talk, she would be the door from the souls to the people. And, everybody in the room would just be crying their eyes out. She was extremely good. So after she dies, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that she gave up a physical incarnation to become my guardian angel. And so that's pretty much a little rundown on my guardian angel, Yvonne. Now, back to the hospital. They load me into the helicopter. And the EMT that's in there, he's strapping me in and getting the gurney kind of situated. And you kind of sit kind of tilted a little bit, so you get to see the pilot and, part of the door, and you get the EMT there and everybody. And the EMT, I remembered he stuck his hand through the blue tube, and he was tightening some ratchet strap or something, and I thought it was funny, and I'm laughing. But the pilot, I could see he had his helmet on, and he had his night vision goggles attached to it, and they were powered up. You could see the green light. And he tells the EMT, he says, hey, let's go. This is, shut the door and kill the light. So the EMT shut the door and killed the light. And the pilot swung around and looked up at the light. And then he looked right straight down at me. And he stared at me for about 4 seconds. Then he turned his head around, powered up the chopper, and away we left. So we fly on in, and we land on OHSU roof. And the EMT opens the door, and the tube lifts off me and floats out the door. All the souls, everything. So I looked, and I could see from the elevator on the roof that there were two interns running with a gurney, towards my direction. And I thought, well, I'll be darned. They protected me. They protected me through the trip. And that's when I lost consciousness. I wake up the next day, and a very good radiologist had fixed me. He went down the same tube, same jugular vein, went down, saw all the damage and stuff that was going on, backed the camera up, went back down in by the liver to the inside vein, and saw how bad it was. So he ripped that vein off and put a stent in that one, and then he went out and to repair the outside vein. He said, if I didn't repair the inside vein, you'd be back. So I just did you a favor. So laying there for about 4 days, there wasn't a lot of conversation about it. I got to look at some pictures of what the vein looked like in the liver, and I just, I only looked at them once, and I said, throw them away. It was just something I didn't want to see. I didn't speak much of it. I had several, a lot of the in-laws came. I woke up and one of my in-laws was rubbing my feet, with lotion and stuff. And it's just different. I remember different things, but I didn't really speak of the incident, or the event. It was an interesting ride home. It was pretty quiet. I got to come home on my wife's birthday. That's when they let me out. So it's always on her mind now for her birthday. We get home. And just grabbed my phone and started looking up different things about NDEs and found a couple of groups and started reading and got some books from a local library, and then had to go up and, get different libraries because I burned out every book that there was in between Walport and Newport as far as NDEs go. At the time when I wrote my event story, I think I was at 52 books. I'm over 60 something now. My wife has written 10 that I flagged that are the best ones to describe what happened with me, or what I felt, or the places that I'd been, people that have been to avoid, that didn't get to see the light, or, go up and see the meadows or all their family, or get a life review or things like that. It let her see what happened to me and gave her a little better picture of, what in the fuck happened to her husband, or what the hell happened to her husband. So that's how all that started. And about a year and a half after my event, Mom gets diagnosed with cancer. She'd been having problems going to the bathroom, both. And so we went in and got checked, and they did a CAT scan, and they found a tumor on her cervix. She'd had a hysterectomy 30 years prior. And they weren't sure whether they were supposed to leave the cervix in or take the cervix out. They left hers in, but they also missed a piece of the cancer. So 30 years later, it metastasized, or it grew into this lemon-sized tumor. So she wouldn't do chemotherapy because Mom knew it was poison. But my uncle had prostate cancer, and he did radiation, and they shrank it and got rid of it. So, and he said it's not like the old kind of radiation where it burned you all up. So she went ahead and did for that. I went down to Coos Bay with her, and I was in the doctor's office when we looked at the CAT scan, and you could definitely see the tumor. There was no problem there. You could see it down there. But what I saw was all of her lymph nodes in her chest and up and around to her shoulders and in her neck and everything else and through her breast. All of her lymph nodes were all lit up sugar white. It had already metastasized. It had already turned, I was going to lose her in a year. So I asked the doctor, I said, could I put her on RSO, which is Rick Simpson oil? And he said, yeah, sure. So he signed the paperwork for the state. As I'm sitting there watching, how all the colors coming back into her cheeks and stuff like that, seeing how I was just watching the improvement thing. And there were other people that I'd accidentally run into. One of my wife's secretaries, after she retired, got a dose of cancer, and I was able to stymie that one. Then I was in a bar, and that we usually, my wife and I usually frequent, and one of the cocktail servers asked how my mom was. And I said, she's fine. I said, look here. He says, oh, really? He says, yeah. And so all of a sudden, another food server says, oh, really? He says, I have ovarian cancer. So on we go. Well, with her just using her tip money, I got her fixed up, and I think it took her about 6 weeks. Oh, and plus I'm a godfather because she had a child. But anyway, it's all done and good and said and done. I'm up to 16 patients right now, 14 cures, still working on 2. Never quits. I'm trying to slow down some. It's hard on me. I was doing like 2 a year, just because I need the time and space in between. And just the kind of guy I am, I just can't say no. And I'm always, sneaking 2 or 3 other people, in amongst, everything. And I don't just, say, here's your stuff and go. I can feel everything they're feeling. It's amazing. But anyway, after watching Mom get all, cleaned up, and all bright and cheery again, I was at the grocery store, and all of a sudden I saw this lady with this tan mask on walking around the store. It had down both jaw lines like this, across the mouth, over the chin. There was no slit or no mouth hole. And I looked and I thought, well, what is this? And I figured maybe it was she had her jaw wired, or maybe it was to cover up cosmetic surgery or something like that, or a lip or chin or something like that. Then as time goes on, maybe a week or so or something like that, I get to the store again and I see a couple of more people. And I'm going, now come on, something's up. And it gets to the point where I go into the store and seeing almost like 30 of these women with these masks on. It's, I'm beginning to think, what is this, like the Red Hat Society or something? One day, this elderly lady, she's in her 80s at least, I walked by her and it felt like I was just hit with a brick. I just dropped my groceries, I just left the cart and I chased her down and I said, excuse me, I said, I have a strange premonition that, you have something medically wrong with you. I said, are you okay? Or is there something wrong? And she said, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And I didn't know what to say. It was too young. It was too young for me then. I didn't know. I wasn't really involved like that yet. It was becoming really obvious then that all these people I was seeing with these masks on all had cancer. Now that I see them, I try to help as many as I can. And, I mean, when I talk to these people, walk up to a woman, she's got this mask on, and you tell them, I just walk up and I say, I know. And, they go, what? I said, I know you have the cancer. I can see it. These women are hurt. These women are confused. They don't know what to do in a busy mother in a busy household, how things are coming out. I mean, they're scared. This is why I take breaks. I can feel all of that because it loads me up. The worst mask that I saw, this is a good one. The worst mask I saw was in town. I'm getting ready to go to the post office, and I'm sitting in a break in the meridian so I can take my left-hand turn. I happened to look on over, and there was a lady on the sidewalk, and she had a mask on. All of a sudden, her mask starts moving like that metal. It started morphing and moving around in her face. And I went, oh, great, this is nice. And I looked ahead, and as I'm looking ahead, oncoming traffic was coming down 101, and I'm looking, and then the first person I see in the first car, in the driver's side, has got a mask on. And I'm going, oh, this is great. Now I'm seeing people in cars. So I just did a U-turn. I went home, cried. I didn't go anywhere for 3 days. It screwed me up. I mean, it really screwed me up.
I bet.
When I saw that mask move, it was something else.
That's craziness. What happens during the COVID days when everybody's wearing a mask?
It's been nice. It's been nicer. It really has, because I can't. I don't see as much. I don't see as many. It's slowed down, quite a bit. I guess the middle of the month things will pick up, but here in Oregon. But as I started curing more people, I started getting a lot of resistance from my mother. She really didn't like the fact that Yvonne was my guardian angel. Yvonne is Mom's younger sister. Mom really kind of hated it. She didn't think that she thought I was, a nut. She started seeing all the things that I was doing as just happen chance and not skilled or, no alchemy or anything like that. Mm-hmm. She thought it was uncanny that I was running into so many people. She thought that it was uncanny that I was able to keep having these people cured. She just thought it was odd. And I kept on telling her, I know Yvonne is my guardian angel. I use 4 psychics, all for a different reason. And my best one, when I walked through the door, she said, oh, I see you brought your guardian angel with you. and then proceeded to call her by her nickname. Yvonne is a lot of fun, and the two of them had a good time. I mean, there was questions, specific questions answered. I mean, I was a blubbering, just a blubbering mess, when she first, called her by her nickname. And as soon as Mom heard that, she didn't think that, that's when she thought I was starting to lose it. So I ran into another psychic, and I went to go see her. And I said, so I'm looking, for my guardian angel. She said, well, she's right here. She says, she's on your right shoulder. And I said, okay, what's the name? She goes, I don't know. And I said, oh, great. I've already give up, and just walk out and go. And she said, so tell me, who's the redhead? And that's Yvonne. And I went, oh, shit. That's, I couldn't believe it. And so then she tells me, she says, this isn't your first NDE. And I said, what? And she said, this isn't your first NDE. She says, you died 3 other times. I said, what? And she said, yeah, the first time was on heroin. And I remember waking up in a bathtub full of water. I didn't know that I died or that they were saving my life or whatever, but that's how I woke up. The other 2 times were from overdosing on some really good cocaine. And the 4th one, was this one. This is the only one I remember. I'm pretty positive Yvonne's got a lot to do with it. Another psychic that I ran into, she had hairy cell leukemia, and I went into a rock shop where they sell gems and rocks, and I was looking for a certain rock, and I picked it up on her, and I asked her, and she said yes. And so I just came around the counter and I sat down in this empty chair next to her, and we just bonded. She felt really comfortable, didn't know who I was or whatever, and just started talking to me. And so I told her I would go ahead and get her fixed up. I tried putting her on regular RSO, but the THC in it was too much for her head, and she couldn't connect with people and do readings. So there was that problem. So I changed the RSO and I made it out of CBDs instead. I made it out of hemp. The pot I use has beta caryophyllene and beta myrcene in it, which are both cancer killers. So I put her on that, along with some other little tricks I have up my sleeve. All the fibromyalgia that she was getting in her legs from hairy cell leukemia was going away. So I brought in a list. I asked her if she would do a reading instead of paying for the RSO, and she said, "Oh yeah, sure." I brought a list of questions to have her answer or ask Yvonne. And the questions I asked: how come I was in the dirt for so long? She said that's how long it took her to convince the powers that be that I would change for the better and be a better person. I said, who picked me up off of the floor? She said, Saint Germaine. She called on him to restart my life process because we were friends back in the 1700s. I would attend his lectures. We all had the same friends. We would hang out. We were buds. I asked where the tube came from. She said when she heard the doctor say that there was nothing more that they could do except make me comfortable, she called Saint Michael to turn his sword into the blue tube of protection and place it over me. I asked who was in the blue tube with me. She said it was her, my dad's mother's husband, who was a spirit guide for me, Saint Germaine, and Saint Michael. The psychic asked if I was pissed at God. And I said, no, why? And she said, well, apparently I was being groomed as an apostle. So I looked up apostle, and there's 2 types. One that does all good and godly things, and the other one does create strife and human hardships and things like that. And I guess I was being groomed to be the latter. And I guess I threw a fit. I jumped out of my group circle, jumped into another group circle, and into the first body I could find, this one. So now I have two group circles to deal with up in heaven. And the latest thing is the some date of like 647 or 647 AD or 674 AD. It was back in the time of Merlin. Saint Germain was incarnated as Merlin. And when he stopped the incarnation and left, I didn't take Merlin's place. I just took his job. I didn't become Merlin. I just became the alchemist that took that place. As far as I know, I still have one more incarnation to go. It's those willy wispy clouds up in the sky.
Okay.
Okay. I used to think that they were a bunch of souls, but they're not. They're actual angels in each one. I know she helps me see some of the masks. It's not just all me. I know she's doing some of it. So I know she sees through my eyes. And when I see something that's amazing, like a sunset or something like that, I'll just ask her and, hey, check this out. And all of a sudden there'll be, it'll just, you can't stop. It's a physical function. You just can't stop. And I know she's still here, and I know she's still there. I asked my channel in the UK, since she channels Saint Germain all the time. I said, since you're talking to him all the time, I said, it'd be kind of nice, I really would like to meet the guy to pick me up off the floor. And I would like to be able to chat with Yvonne. I said, do you think maybe you could throw in a good word? And when you're on Messenger and you type something in and you push send, and you see the person's face go like this. Mm-hmm. Well, when I said, you think you can, maybe help me out a little bit, like that, all of a sudden, a page and a half written instantly goes just like that. You can't talk that fast. You can't do it that fast. I'm reading this and I'm getting my butt chewed. Don't you think you'd have no clue? You're just a babe in the woods and all this stuff. And so I'm going, when I got done reading, I go, sorry, I just thought I'd ask. And all of a sudden, another page and a half shows up and the face comes right down again. And I'm going, what in the hell? And she goes, Phil, that wasn't me. That was Saint Germain.
Oh, no way.
Yes. That was Saint Germain. I got my butt chewed by a saint. He told me that I was in no way anywhere near prepared, nor this or that. So after I got to know Brigitte a little better, I asked her, I said, I cheated on you, and I found another channeler, and she was talking with Saint Germain, and she was saying that full consciousness will come in the year 2025. And she told me, no, it's going to be sooner than that. Mm. It should be, if not this year, it will be next year. We won't be in the 3D anymore. We'll be in 5. And everybody will see. The love that's hidden in this planet is soon to be unleashed on everybody. And it's going to be fantastic.
Cannot wait. Yeah. So, what an amazing experience that you had. I have a few questions for you. Like, for example, the atomic bomb light that you seen. I've heard this described very similar to what you described it as from other NDEers. And I can't remember which ones, because this is going back quite a bit, like maybe 5 years ago. He said the best way to describe it is to visualize an atomic bomb and the way that it does explode and the light that emits from it. But then, add the love, and
you can see love. When I saw that, that was unbelievable. I watched it come and it hit me, and it was just, wow, you can see love. I'm laying there on the gurney getting ready to go on a helicopter, and I'm going, wow, too high. You can see love. This is amazing.
I mean, how do you perceive that? Do you think that was God? Do you think that was just an expression of love that was shown to you in that sort of way? What do you walk away from that thinking?
The dying part and floating back into the shop, I think, was pretty jarring. The the NDE, once it was over and I was back into my body, wasn't really the exciting part, other than being able to float in and see everything from above and have someone pick me up that you don't know who did, and hear that, and to know that you were out for that period of time. It's the other part of, my story is it didn't have anything to do with the NDE. These were things I was seeing that was being done by Yvonne. That she was calling, she was in direct communication, and she was calling. I don't know if you know this, but they travel at the, angels travel at the speed of light. I know, the speed of thought. I had a friend, I guess I still have a friend. His mother was having a hard time, and she was in a Texas hospital. And I got the address and all that stuff. And I asked Yvonne to go down and see if she could find anything out, and if she would, look at her. So in the time that it took me to tell Yvonne to go, and for me to pick up my phone, go to Messenger, and then pick up another psychic that I know on Messenger and asked her if she was busy, and she says no. And so I just told her what I did. Yvonne had already been back and figured out what was wrong with this guy's mother's lungs. The check valves in her lungs were failing, and she was drowning. And so before she knew that the information could get there, she went to the doctor's house and implanted into the doctor's dreams the problem of the lungs, so that when he showed up at work, it was like a brainstorm to him, and he found out that it was the check valve. She didn't end up making it, but I was really surprised that she was able to go down and come back, and the whole thing was all done and discussed in probably 3 minutes. I couldn't believe it, and that's when the other psychic told me that she travels at the speed of thought. It just takes her a thought and she's there. She can leave me and go be helping somebody else. I'm sure I'm not her only friend, but all I have to do is think of her, and wherever she was at or wherever she's at, she's right here with me. And the spirit guide I have, I don't have any idea. I've met my grandmother, never met my grandfather, from my dad's side. So it's all strange. It's all strange to me. If people want to get cured, put your foot down. Go to Google. Start looking. Stay away from the ones that say ad at the top of them. Go to all the people that want to do homeopath and stuff like that. Get real cures. Gave Virginia a study to do. They did a study for 2 years, and they gave it back to him and said it kills 47 different types of cancer. Nothing wrong with pot. It's not a Class A drug. And Nixon was furious. He threw the whole thing in the trash, and he classified everything so nobody could use it. And Big Pharma does the same thing with all the stuff that they use. They just keep making it inaccessible to the person who has the problem. I explained to him that it's you can't overdose on this stuff. You can't OD with it. It's got nothing but good. All you can do is go to sleep. So it's a really handy way to cure.
I was wondering, did you tell the second doctor, like at the second hospital, did you ever have an opportunity to talk about the experience that you just had prior to getting there, like your NDE with
the young doctor? No, I never went back to there, and I never went back and I talked to. I was planning on going back and talking to the head doctor, the lady, the one that came out and said, well, I guess we can make him just about as comfortable as possible, and that's it. One good thing did happen out of all of this. The oncologist for my mother, when she did the exam and put her through the tube, and did the CAT scan, she wanted to put her on chemotherapy and all that. My wife ended up talking to the same oncologist, because my wife had a tumor on an ovary, and they wanted to do a hysterectomy too. And so they did that orthoscopically and got it all out. But I knew she didn't have cancer because I couldn't see it. And the the people in emergency were freaking out because she had this, lump and she was hurting. And so they, I said, she doesn't have, cancer. I said, I can see it, if she did. And they're looking at me like, who in the hell are you? Shut up. This is a hospital. I'm going, yeah, okay. But it turned out her blood test and her urine test showed up with no cancer markers. So, I was right. But her oncologist was the same doctor that wanted to work on my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the oncologist what I did to my mother and how I got rid of the tumor and did it all in 4.5 months. And it already been metastasizing and going to her lymph system. And she said she didn't know that. It opened her eyes. It let her realize the fact that something she wanted to, cost mom a lot of money, could have been done a lot cheaper. If you do the whole Phoenix tiers system and buy everything through a dispensary, it can cost around $4,600. Mm-hmm. That's what it costs to buy the RSO. Through me, it's like $1,350. Tell people what I do. I go to the growers, mm-hmm. and I said, this isn't for the house, and okay. I need you to be real gentle with me, because I have to add on my Everclear, I have to add on my gas prices, mm-hmm. It takes a little over 3 hours just to make one batch to suck up into syringes, and I get like 3 6-mil syringes, all the running around and doing stuff like that. I really, when I was going gangbusters for a while, I was losing a little bit of money, but it didn't make much difference to me at the time. I was just happy to be, helping people. I'm not. It's not like you're powerful or anything, or like you're God. But when you got someone standing in front of you that's got cancer, and you cure them, it sure does make you feel cool. It really does.
Most definitely.
That's another thing about this whole event. The love that I feel for people, colors, things like that, people's skin, it's like gone. I mean, it's just, it doesn't matter. You cut your finger, I'll cut my finger. It's still the same color. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether they're white, black, yellow, or what other color. We're connected to the same light.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here's something for you. An ascended master like Saint Germaine. It's one of my goals. I still want to meet the man that picked me up, and I still want to be able to have him enabled so I can talk to Yvonne, because I haven't talked to her since the last time I saw her before she died. And it's coming soon. I don't know if I'll be able to do it on my own, but
maybe.
I told her if I can do this on my own, I said I will not tell you. I'll let Saint Germaine tell you. So that's going to be her clue when I finally connect, because like they say, it's full consciousness is getting ready to show up pretty soon. There's a lot of light being spread around.
That's true. Yeah.
Angels are at work. Trust me.
Help with that shift that's coming. Yeah.
We were made in God's image, not the image of his face, but the image of the love that he has for us. Love, is gonna conquer, and you can't hate everybody. I mean, you have to love everybody. You don't have to love their behavior, but you have to love them. I mean, even, your worst enemy.
Phil, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate your time so much. And I'm really happy that Steve connected us. Steve Swigert, if you haven't seen his video, please check it out. It's really amazing. That was just the viewers. But yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing all these amazing details with us. And I'm sure it's going to resonate with quite a few people and answer some questions. Well, maybe even provoke some questions, hopefully.
It's been an event, and I hope I hope somebody gets something out of this. I hope they can understand that there is life after death. It's not a joke. It's for real. This is just a meat suit. Once it hits the ground, you're free, and you won't believe how light you are. Absolutely, you don't weigh a thing. It's so real.
And we are light, right?
Yes, we are light. If not, then we'd be dark.
Thank you so much, Phil. God bless you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate this time. Have a good day.
You too.